button. We are not recording. We are just Facebook Live.
Okay.
So we're still in just kind of
Okay.
prepping
All right, sounds
mode
good.
here. Yeah, we're looking good. Let me read you your bio. Hey, Facebook Live, let us know where you're watching from and any comments. Before we go on the recorder, we will acknowledge those comments. And if you're watching this behind the, or when we're not live anymore, I'm sure Nicole will be able to see the comments, answer any questions, and we will acknowledge those on the back side of the interview and on the front side if you jump in right there. So here's the bio practice read. I've always learned if somebody else writes the bio or if I write the bio, it doesn't matter. I have to, practice the bio out loud. As every adjunct professor and dean and academia person knows this time of year, you got to read out loud to avoid issues at baccalaureate and graduation for sure. So Nicole Edwards, CPLP, is a speaker and facilitator dedicated to empowering professionals to challenge limiting perceptions that stand in the way of personal and professional success. I almost said challenging limiting perceptions. That's why I read this stuff out loud, everybody. Oh my gosh. Now, Nicole is my favorite because we are both. Now, I am the backslidden former CPLP.
Oh, no.
Okay, I did not renew because I'm like, as I'm going to just throw it out here. I'm teaching this stuff, and you may not know this. I was teaching instructional design for several years as an adjunct myself. I was in training and development. I, was on the board of the Philadelphia chapter of AT. Before they changed the acronym back when it was kind of that weird acronym, I was the president of the Philadelphia Weird Acronym Society. And it was funny because I was talking. This is Seinfeldian because my interview yesterday was on vaccinations against the HPV vaccine, which is the most egregious and the most explicit interview I've ever done. Right out of the gate, I'm doing a Facebook Live. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what am I? I come from a very medical family, and I'm still kind of like, oh, what kind of disclaimer do I need to put on this? And actually, they've been super, super happy about that already. Like an hour after that interview, there are like 10 shares from the whole, vaccination community because of all the reasons that we covered in the interview. So all that, that's just TMI, but I've got a real live active CPLP on the line. Congratulations. Barack Obama last week gave the keynote out in San Diego for the ATD conference. Oh my gosh, we are moving and shaking in the training and development community. And I am the kind of the black sheep that walked over outside of the corporate and academic and institutional training and learning. And I moved into kind of motivational and internet marketing because I thought, a few years ago, I'm like, if the ultimate behavioral change and attitude change results in behavior, what's the greatest behavior than people paying out of their pocket to go and take a course or go get a certification or whatever? I need to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of my reasoning. This is not on the record. It's on kind of this recording, but over on that recording, I just had to get that out of my system with you, Nicole. I had to kind of take a minute and let you know where I came from. And I'm just very happy to have you on the talk today. We're not on the talk yet, but we're on Facebook Live. So
the pre-talk,
pre-talk.
Yeah.
It's on the pre-talk. So, any questions for me? Now we are, and we will go offline after the talk and we will shut down Facebook Live. So we actually have a private conversation. We will have that.
Okay.
Just try to be aware. I'm getting used to juggling the recording and the podcast and True Talk universe and Facebook universe here and you and, and all of this. And frankly, Facebook Live, Nicole comes first because she's the featured guest, but we'll have private time. But right now it's corporate time, and we're going to have super corporate time when I hit that interview button. So before I give you kind of the rundown of the overview of the onboarding video summary, any questions for me?
Not at all. I actually did watch your onboarding video.
Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
and from a training and development perspective, was it okay, or is there
Top
something
notch.
I can do? We're not going to have an assessment. We're just, I
Right.
mean,
No.
sometimes, if
Yeah.
this was a corporation, I would have the level 4 evaluation at
Yeah.
least, or maybe a
Sure.
level 5 because I
Sure.
control all the metrics, so I have access to
Mhm.
all of that. But you know what? In the real world, we only have so much time, and so I
Agreed.
have no assessment. I just give you a quick little recap, which is 2 minutes. Take us behind the talk, which is in your eyes. Summarize the talk. Tell us the story, everything story. Then we'll have a conversation. Please don't be the subject matter expert that just goes on and on for 9 minutes in
Sure.
increasingly more jargon and basically force me to interrupt you. Don't do that to us, Nicole. I don't want to
Okay.
do that to you. Because really what I've realized is Talk Universe is really on our side, but really on my side to kind of quickly interrupt and bring them back into the conversation. So don't highlight the separate. We're all on the same side here.
Okay.
And then we're going to have the blitz round, and then we're going to have the final word of advice. Now, one thing that I'm doing a little bit not differently, but I actually have a little cue card right here because what I'm going to start doing is inserting my own pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll. So
Mm.
I'm instead of just announcing the blitz round, I'm going to say in a moment we're going to be back with Nicole Edwards for the blitz round, and then there's going to be this weird 2 second weird silence. You're going to be like, "What the heck is going on with Nathan?" And then I'm going to be like, "And we're back with the
Yeah,
blitz round with Nicole," and that's going to be because my audio team is going to be inserting my little internet marketing ads for Think and Grow Rich free chapter in my audio book that I've recorded in my own voice. That Talk Universe is engaged and hypnotized by the voice that God gave me. So I recorded a chapter of a public domain business book, and that's my little level up kind of thing. And I'm going to have a couple of those little offers in there, and I'm going to basically experiment with that. So, I noticed that a couple of people today that was like, is that my cue, Nathan? So it's your cue. So
okay.
just listen and figure it out, and all of that. So any questions for me? Let's see how we're doing here.
I think I'm good.
Awesome. Well, you are good and everything's good. Actually, if you can't see the side by side, Nicole, but
Mhm.
if you can kind of tilt your webcam or just so that you're
Yep.
just a little higher. There you go.
This
Oh,
way?
yeah, that's great.
Yep.
That's great. So now
Okay.
our eyes are like,
Okay.
like
Lined
that.
up?
Sometimes people are like, they get on. It's like I don't want to be like Toto to your
Right.
Munchkins or or whatever the more appropriate thing to say than that might be. But it's like, oh, we gotta. And isn't it interesting? I mean that when I'm just going to throw this in here before we take a live. It's like I really stepped out of the whole corporate academic institutional learning side to peer-to-peer learning and social media learning and marketing learning. And it was like we were like in the dark ages in terms of doing videos and visual. I mean, we're talking about visual learning and
Right.
and like our visuals were so lousy
Yeah.
back then, and it's like we're so good at like getting on webcams and we got our eyes like on like the 2/3 level, and we're all
Yeah.
like we could have like shot like decent training videos like 10 or 15 years ago just knowing what we know. It's just, I mean,
Yeah.
just from doing this a little bit, it's amazing to me. So anyway, okay, so all right, I already read your bio,
Okay.
and I'm going to steer everybody your web page or your LinkedIn page, excuse me, and I think I'm ready to go after a stretch for a
Yeah, me
moment.
too.
A stretch, a little stretch break. Woo! All right, and a little Ric Flair shout out right there. All right, so I'm ready to go. How about you, Nicole?
I'm good.
All
Yeah.
right, so we are live in 3, 2. We are live with Nicole Edwards. Nicole, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready to talk.
Nicole Edwards is a certified professional in learning and performance, or a CPLP. She is a speaker, facilitator dedicated to empowering professionals to challenge their limiting perceptions that stand in the way of personal and professional success. Nicole Edwards, welcome to the talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So your talk was called In Your Eyes, is a branded talk. I got to give you the award for being the first certified professional in learning and performance. I used to be a fellow CPLP and I let it run out a few years ago. So congratulations. I love having other learning and performance professionals in the talk. So please take us behind the talk. It's called In Your Eyes, which is everybody's favorite song by Peter Gabriel as well, gotta say.
I just have to say I thank you because not everybody knows that song. And that song is actually really special to me. It's a little cheesy, but it's just one of my childhood favorites. And so this talk just came about. It it had a lot of professional stuff that I talked about in there, but honestly, it came from a lot of my personal experiences. And the fact of people can really have a misinterpretation and disagreement, even if something is right in front of them.
Well, absolutely. So, yeah, give us a little bit more depth on that. What kinds of disagreements did you overcome, and why is it so difficult when we get polarized like that, Nicole?
Sure, absolutely. So if you think about like even in your family, right, and you have maybe a parent that doesn't really subscribe to the profession that you really want to follow because it's in your heart, and they want you to be successful. And they think that given a certain path, you're going to be successful if you do that. And depending on how you are wired, that just might not be the case. And I feel as though this happens all the time. And that's just kind of a general example. For me in my personal life, this talk was actually born out of a situation that I had. I went on a date with a gentleman a few years ago, and I really thought it was just perfect. I feel like everything on paper, we had so many things in common. I mean, on and on. It was just like the perfect, I feel like, moment. And for whatever reason, it didn't turn out. It didn't turn out the way that I expected it to or that I had hoped to. And it really challenged me to think about how was I looking at the situation and how could I have missed something and just how could there have been such a dramatic difference in interpretation?
Well, and we're as a society right now, this whole idea of having a certain perspective, a certain set of eyes versus another set of eyes, and just based on the backgrounds and our ethnicity and our gender and all of these different things. That is so highlighted right now.
Yeah,
This ability that we have, if we really try, and if we really try to hear one another out without judgment, we can actually start to step in one another's shoes and see life through their eyes. So,
yeah,
I love some of the other talks that we've talked to Kat Morgan in one of the first 20 talks I think that we did, and it's all about just sitting down at the table, listening to one another, hearing
yeah,
one another out, and really valuing dialogue instead of polarized, argumentativeness in our
yeah,
culture right now. So tell us a little bit what have you done? I mean, you're a learning professional, so
yeah,
you're trying to build bridges all the time. You're trying to heighten the awareness. I really appreciate that you've stepped over outside of only the institutional academic learning, and you're also in the personal growth and learning space, as I also am. And
sure.
so it's all about building bridges and making those connections and coaching other people to a greater level of awareness. So, throw us a couple of case studies and stories of
Sure.
what you've done, Nicole.
Sure. I just want to say I think we have a lot in common. I think I do the academic part and I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do, but I think my heart and my passion is really the personal development stuff, and it's really kind of helping people to unearth whatever it is within them so that they can be better, right? And so professionally, I have facilitated trainings all over. I've presented at conferences. I do still teach as an adjunct professor. And the people that I work with, we work in youth development. So people who work with children or adolescents in different capacities, whether it's mentorship, whether it's youth development thought leaders that are trying to change kind of the way that we approach working with kids outside of the school day. And so it's a little different than education. And what I have found over and over again across I have been doing this work is that I think at the heart of it all, we all want to make a difference in the life of the children of today and in general. And there's always been kind of a discrepancy or a fight on what is most important. Like, for some people, they really think that kids need to follow the rules and they need to do what they're told because you need to learn how to listen to adults so that you can be successful, right? Whereas others don't necessarily think that. They think that it should be more youth directed and that we should really honor where young people are coming from and their experiences so that we can help empower them in a different way. And so across the various years, I've really challenged myself to have the people to really dig deep into what they think themselves so that they can be more aware when they're then working with the children that they're working with. Because a lot of times what we do, we teach who we are. And we want people to do things the way we do them, and we want people to do things the way that we think is most important. And if we're going to be in the work of helping people in any type of human services, we really need to take ourselves out of it. One of the best pieces of advice I got probably 20 years ago at my first job, my boss sat me down and she said, Nicole, I'm so excited that you're here. This is going to be really tough work, but I want you to know something. This is not about you. And it really has stuck with me. And when she wasn't trying to she wasn't trying to squash me or anything. She just really wanted me to understand that everything that we do, really you have to meet people with their needs and where they're at. It's not about you.
Well, and it's a good reality check. I mean, as you're talking, Nicole, I keep thinking back to that whole CPLP training that we had, and that was really, I mean, it was about 10 years ago for me. It was probably several years ago for you as well. And I mean, it was like I didn't know 10 years ago what coaching really was. I thought it was what you did for Little League for your kids or something.
Right.
No, it's not that. It's about finding the answers within people, their own answers in their
Yes.
own eyes, in their
Yes.
own language, so
Yes.
that they can have their own breakthrough on their own terms. And we
Absolutely.
also learned about, organizational development principles. I didn't learn that stuff in my own master's degree that I went through. I mean, I learned how to, manage projects and do some debugging and a little bit of coding and programming. And I learned all the little instructional theories out there, but learning about change management and how you have to say the same thing over and over, how it's way more important to have social peer-to-peer pressure and be able to organizationally change that and steer that and reward the right outputs and steer the right inputs. Those things were absolutely huge, and you can't do those things as a CEO, as an executive, as a manager, as a leader without seeing things through the other people's eyes to figure out what really is going on. So what are your thoughts on that? Those are a little bit more than my 2 cents, but I'm stepping in on your turf a little bit. But what would you say to that?
No, I love it. I feel like we could nerd out for a while on the whole CPLP and all of the kind of competencies that go into that. I mean, it was really a rigorous and eye-opening process. But everything you said is so accurate. I can see it just in everyday life. And, when I'm at the office, I can really see kind of the inner workings of what's going on, and that we are really coming to work with all of these different interpretations of what's really, what's going on. And it's not that one is wrong. You hear the old adage, it's the three sides to the truth, right? The one side, then the other side, then the actual truth. And I mean, this just goes on and on. I think it permeates everything that we do, and even with run-ins with strangers. I have this fascination with just meeting people that you just for some reason, you get them in the grocery store line and you strike up a conversation, and you have just kind of a moment of connection. I feel like those moments make me really just think about how we're just coming to the table with, like you said, past experiences that lead us up to that point.
Well, for sure. And I mean, I think that what I've observed, coming out of the whole training and development scene, teaching it, adjuncting as you are, just realizing how important to have the emotional intelligence and the social intelligence really is beginning to just far outpace all of the other measures of intelligence. I think it was Gardner that
Yes.
had all the multiple intelligences, but that
Yeah.
social
Yep.
intrapersonal intelligence is absolutely up there. What's your take? I got to ask you this. I mean, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we had, the different models that were a little bit top heavy, even at that point in time. And now we have social media and we have these iterative tools. From your
Mhm.
perspective, how have you seen these tools become easier and faster to use, perhaps more natural, more organic in terms of people, everyday people being able to use powerful tools in order to teach other people through their eyes, but be able to train other people so that they can learn skills and be competent with a minimum of resistance. What's your take on that?
Well, I think a lot that has come about with kind of just micro learning. That learning doesn't have to be kind of like in a box set that you get handed and you watch from 1 to 10. I think it's those snippets and that translation to real world application. I think that's a big thing. Also, you mentioned the peer to peer,
The
framework.
social, yeah, the social
Yeah.
learning, yeah.
Yeah, that works a lot. There's a certain platform that I have used before that I kind of brought to the table in a lot of my work where people can connect with each other, kind of like in a mini social media within the of the program. And so it's kind of like things that you might encounter during the day that you learned before, but you're chatting with each other. So it's more of that social aspect. A lot of another piece is really empowering people to be experts in their own right. And training isn't telling, right? And that's from however many years ago, but it's really true. I feel like if we really let people as adults, especially, right? You're the expert of whatever your world looks like. Let's bring that to the table. Let's help you unpack it. Let's talk about it.
We've been enjoying a riveting conversation, especially if you're a trainer or a coach or a learning professional with with Nicole Edwards. Thank you, audio people. We've been enjoying this riveting conversation with Nicole Edwards. Her talk is called In Your Eyes. In a moment, we'll be right back with the Blitz Round. And we're back with Nicole Edwards. It's time for the Blitz Round. I'm going to ask you a series of either or questions related to the preparation and performance of your talk. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey, first question. Were you selected to speak, Nicole, or did you apply?
I applied.
Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I am usually one that makes bullet points and then I improvise, but for the talk, absolute memorization.
Absolute 100%.
100%.
How did that
Which
serve you?
Oh, it stretched me. It stretched me in ways that were surprising. I think I learned a lot in ways that I didn't expect. It worked out. It worked out.
It worked out. All right.
Yeah.
Are you a seasoned performer to this kind of stage or newer to the stage?
Well, I facilitated all around the country. I'm a Toastmaster, so I've done a lot of speaking, but nothing is quite like the TEDx stage.
No podium to hide behind,
No podium.
a little shorter. Well, that said, did you have nerves or were you in the zone or neither or both?
Oh, I have never been so nervous in my entire life. Once I walked on stage, I planted my feet. It was done from then. I was in the zone after that.
Was it the planning? Was it the breathing? Was it the fact that you were physiologically in the right posture, that you didn't have to wait anymore? What was the key?
I think preparation was definitely key here. I think in other times I fly, just whatever comes to my spirit at that time. The preparation absolutely made it that I could relax into the talk.
What's a tip, technique, or a tool that helped you?
One thing that helped me a lot, or two things. The first thing is I jogged and did my talk. So I had kind of the cardiovascular thing going
Mm-hmm.
on while I did it. And the other thing I shared with people that I trust and who I knew were going to give me, feedback that was going to make me better.
I love that idea of jogging, getting the heart rate up because it's going to be up.
Yes.
When you give that talk, the heart rate is going to be up. So why not run around,
Why
sprint
not?
around the
Yeah.
track or run around the neighborhood and try to
Yep.
talk because you're gonna understand what it's like. Talk universe. See, this is a training and development expert. What do we call that? That's the performance context instead of the training context.
Sure.
Don't make the training context, air conditioning in your room. No, make it the performance context, which is a flashlight in your face, run around the block, get your heart rate up, and then you will be experiencing much closer to the conditions of the performance. A little geek talk right there. What was the biggest challenge of your talk, Nicole?
I think the challenge was I was given 9 minutes and I was told that you have to adhere to the 9 minutes. So a lot of it got cut out. I had some funny stories that I wanted to add in. I wanted to add the story about the date. It didn't get in it.
Oh, well, hey, that's the cut for time question. I actually
Yeah.
sprinted over that. Let's go back to the cut for time. What was the most painful one for you to cut out? Was it the date or was it something else?
I had this whole funny thing I was going to do. I was going to simulate a Tinder exchange and like have like
Go back.
Ryan Gosling on
Was
the other
that
side.
you said a Tinder exchange? We
Yes.
slowed down a little bit.
Okay.
you
Yeah.
you were going to simulate a Tinder exchange.
Yes, yes.
They
And
go on.
I had like Ryan Gosling sit in like as my match and I had this whole spiel and it didn't go.
Well, that's why we have Be the Talk. We can enjoy and
Yeah.
appreciate some of that stuff. Hey, it's a performance. So, what was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk, Nicole?
Okay, so right before the talk, for those of you who have not been to a TED event, there's hosts that kind of introduce you as a speaker, and they're kind of like they're the MCs of the day. Well, the MCs right before my talk, they stole the line. They thought they were being helpful, stole a line from my talk, and kind of unleashed my big thing. So right before I walked on stage, I had already gotten my big moment taken away. It was
They
really
outed your moment right before you're on stage.
yes, yeah.
Oh my word. Okay.
They outed my moment.
Okay, so if you are an organizer or if you are an MC or if you are a speaker and maybe it's dress rehearsal time and you're wondering, that something like that might happen to you, steer them over to Be the Talk, the interview with Andrew Munns about being an MC, and that's where
Okay.
we talk about some of this stuff. Do not. I hate to be so directive, but do not steal the thunder of the person coming out to speak. So how did you recoup for that? That's really
So
the
yeah,
question. Yeah.
what I had a mental thought. The taped version of the talk, no one's going to see that. So the only people that know that that happened were the people that were sitting in the audience live that day. And once, thank God, I got that note in my head and I just went. When I watched the talk back, I can see the exact moment of when it all came. Okay, how am I going to just keep going? Then no one knows. And so I just had to just know that it wasn't the final version with people that were going to introduce me.
Now that's super important. And at this phase in the interview, I normally wouldn't digress about this, but I will because there are two different audiences. There's the live audience in the room that day that
Yeah.
Nicole's talking about. You got that live audience. The MC says something. Hey, whoop! Here it is, and and that was your big line. And unfortunately, in Nicole's case. And what Nicole wisely did is realized, hey, that's the current audience in the room. That's my current environment. But there's a whole other performance environment, which is the YouTube audience, and they don't understand any of it. They're not going to see any of that. So therefore, I'm going to do the unnatural thing of just going on and pretending I didn't hear that and nobody else did. And I'm going to play to the video. And that's what you did. And that helped you give just a killer talk right there. And that's something that some of us, myself included, I'll just say this, I've tried to compromise and try to play to both. And I was even advised to play to both.
Hmm.
But really, you do the best when you play to the YouTube footage. You really do, because you're gonna be rambling a lot less. You're gonna be a lot shorter. And it's good to be a little bit spontaneous. My talk needed some of that, but I was just it was the difference between a 9 or an 8 minute talk and a 12-minute talk for me. And so I just think that's absolutely huge. We've been having a really fun conversation with Nicole Edwards. Her talk is called In Your Eyes. If you want to see that talk, you can type it into YouTube, or you can go to our show notes page at bethetalk.com. As well as if you want to connect with Nicole yourself, we're going to have a link so that you can connect to her profile on LinkedIn. And we are looking forward in just a moment to coming back to Nicole for the final word of advice. And we're back with Nicole Edwards for the final word of advice for Talk Universe.
Final word of advice. If you ever find yourself in a disagreement with anyone, I challenge you to lean in, open your eyes. The power is in your eyes.
Nicole, thank you for coming on Be the Talk and sharing your wisdom today with Talk Universe.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
21 minutes even. That was a longer one. Yeah. Awesome. Great interview. All right. Well, hey, Facebook Live, we're going to shut this down and we're going to take this back private. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next week.